All right, I think we're live. Hey everybody, I think we're live.
Hello?
We're gonna test this out. Let's do a quick sound check.
Check,
Just
you hear us? Can you hear us?
So if you're just coming in to the live stream, we're just gonna let people come into the stream, and then we'll get started here in just a couple minutes. We're gonna just run our tests on our system. This is our first ever Harmel virtual open house. So if you wouldn't mind, in the chat window, if you can hear us, if we're too loud, too soft, let us know. If you're just walking in, come in and say hello, say hi. Tell us where you're dialing in from. Boy, how old am I?
What is this, 90s?
Yeah, we're just going to dialing in.
Where are you streaming in from?
Yeah, what decade are you streaming in from? We're in the 90s here. So in the chat, if you want to tell us where you're coming from. And as soon as we get the go sign from Isaac Allen, who's the captain of the Starship Harmel over there, we'll make sure that we get started with the formal program. In the meantime, I think what we'll do, just by way of running this check, and as people come in, we'll just do a quick introduction of who we are and a quick welcome. So my name is David Phelps. I'm the Executive Director here at Harmel Academy of Trades. And this is Father Dominic Couturier.
Father Dominic Couturier. I'm the chaplain here as well, and welding and metal fabrication instructor.
Yeah. And what, jiu-jitsu, what are they senseis, masters? What do you call yourself?
What do I call myself?
Yeah. What should I call you as a trainer of all things jiu-jitsu?
I think it's one who's aspiring.
Aspiring master.
Yes.
Okay.
Apprenticeship. There we go.
He's in the
apprenticeship program.
Good. Well, so what we're going to do tonight, we have a few remarks to make. We're going to go through basically three different aspects of Harmel Academy. And one of the ways we talk about ourselves at Harmel Academy is we're a community of work, prayer, and study. And that's essentially the areas we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about our view of work and how we do the whole skilled trades training thing. We're going to talk about prayer and how we pray and what the spiritual life is here and the spiritual formation. And then we're going to talk about the type of study that we do here as well. So Father Dominic and I will have a few things to say on that. And after that, we've got a set of questions that have already been submitted, but we also want as many questions submitted in the live stream chat window as well. So we'll also be taking those. And hopefully, for those of you who are brand new to Harmel, you walk out of here knowing a bit about who we are and what we do and why we do what we do. And those of you who have known a little bit about us will have a chance to sort of go a little deeper and figure that out. So let's just quick start while we're waiting for the rest of the people to come in. Father, you just want to tell a little bit about yourself, and then I'll tell a little bit about myself?
Yeah,
and we'll
absolutely. So I've been with Harmel Academy for almost 4 years now. Mm-hmm. I think I came on about 4 years ago. I was still in seminary formation right before I was ordained a deacon my last year there. I stumbled on Harmel Academy through a mutual friend, through Dr. Nathan Schmedeke. And
now teaches for us.
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah, as an adjunct. So I remember he was at my parents' house, and my parents live on a lake, and he'll bring his kids out there, and they'll swim and stuff. And so him and my dad were having a conversation, and I overheard, Catholic trade school. And so I just kind of meandered over there, did some eavesdropping, and Dr. Nathan said, "Oh, hey, come on over. You got to hear this." And so it was the first time I heard about Harmel Academy, and you guys are still looking for a place to establish yourselves and lay down some roots. And it was the very next day, actually, I reached out to Ryan Pohl and Brian Black. And then my dad and I met both of them, I think, the next week at a Panera on the East Beltline, just down the road from us right now. And it's been kind of downhill in a good way. Ever since then, it's just letting the Holy Spirit guide us. But I'm a later called vocation priest, so I worked in the construction industry and metal fabrication at Couturier Ironcraft Incorporated here in Comstock Park, Michigan. Family business. My dad, my grandpa, and uncle started it in 1967. I came in when I was about 9. So I learned the trade, architectural metal fabrication. So really a craftsman trade. My grandpa taught my dad taught me. And so that's kind of the background that I had before I went into seminary. I got the call to the priesthood. Thought I'd have to give all this stuff up, and that was hard. But I gave everything to God, and lo and behold, 6 years later, He gives it back in a more beautiful way. in the sense that I can teach guys something that I love, welding, and then also our Cat and Faith.
Yeah.
And so this has been a blessing for me. I've been here 4 years, and I love giving, and I get back. I get back from you guys. I get back from this place in many ways. So
yeah,
it's extremely edifying.
Wonderful. Well, I've often had this. I love, and we probably can't do it tonight, but I like telling people that you come. Sometimes you walk in here. Either Father Dominic will be welding or teaching guys to weld, and the collar's still on. And this has always been my image.
Still boots, man.
But now I have an image of you as a 9-year-old welding. You said you started at 9.
I started working there at 9. Yeah, I started welding. I think about 10 or 11.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to do it sooner, but my dad said it was too dangerous.
Yeah,
so
yeah, good.
He wanted me to get electrocuted, I guess.
Good. Well, good. So, how are we doing, Isaac? We ready to go?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. So, what we're going to do is we're going to start off by talking a little bit about skilled trades themselves. And obviously we're Skilled Trades Academy. Now, the first thing I want to say about it is that really, as far as we're concerned, missionally here at Harmel, the skilled trades is not the why, it's the what, and it's part of the how. It's not the why. So the main reason we're here is to form young men in their fullness, and we do that through the context of training them in the skilled trades, amongst other things. But it's the skilled trades that is sort of the most obvious thing. We're here in one of our machine labs here in the corner, and the welding labs over there, and robots are over there. But this is the most obvious thing about, this is sort of the standout thing, a Catholic trade school, and that's weird. So we're going to start by talking about the trades. And actually I want to talk about some negative reasons for being interested in the trades that we've observed, and there's 3. They're negative reasons, but each of them contains something important that's actually true. So a lot of people will come to us and they'll say, okay, well, I'm interested in joining the skilled trades because, boy, there's a lot of money to be made. And, okay, well, that may be. The economic opportunities are certainly there. That's true. And, in fact, it's a pretty urgent need. We can throw out just a handful of statistics, as long as my arm, but there is a dire need. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as the skilled trades gap. One example of that is by 2030, there'll be 4 million manufacturing jobs that are needed, and fully 2.5 to 3 million of those are going to go unfilled. And it's just getting worse. That's just manufacturing. Another statistic that you'll come across is that every day, 5,600 baby boomers retire. Every day. And they are not being replaced in the skilled trades. And not only that institutional knowledge is leaving, and it's a crisis for manufacturing and other types of skilled trades. So it's true. There's a huge demand, a huge opportunity, and there's a very, very good financial living to be made. But that is not a reason to do it. A second reason that people who come to us are interested in the trades is, I would call it like this sort of romantic return to the Shire. Right? It's like the sort of like, oh, I'm going to put on my leather apron and I'm going to make some wooden chairs by hand, right? And it's like a life that's what a tradesman is. Well, maybe tradesmen were that at one point, but that's a pretty niche market. The leather wearing.
Unless you're Gandalf. Unless you need a new staff.
This is true. That's right. Making staff for Astari is a very, very niche. We call it the imaginary market. Yeah. And But there is something true about that. I think people, when they look at working with their hands, they recognize the proximity to the work, the embodied experience of the work, being close to the work. There's something true about that, right? But it's not, it's not sort of this romanticized notion. It's hard work. The third reason people will come to us and talk about the skilled trades is they say, well, it's not college, right? That's what trades is, not college. Or I'm not college material, or someone is not college material. And I'm going to say more about that a little bit later, but that's a bad reason to be interested in trade because it's not college. But I think that there's something right about it. People recognize that in higher ed, something's a little off, right? The enrollment in higher education has plummeted 11% in the last 10 years, and it's just going down. Obviously, COVID was a big shock to the system, but I'm of the opinion that COVID didn't cause problems, it revealed them. And people are realizing that there's some real problems in higher education, in the culture, certainly in the price. And a lot of people are just saying that's not for me. But they don't have a positive reason sometimes to go into the trades. So we'll talk about that one a little bit later. Okay. What I'd like to do instead is when we talk about the skilled trades, and if someone you know or one of your family members is interested, these are the reasons that I would encourage you to start thinking about. Okay? And this actually gets to the root of what work is. And this is really what drives everything we try to do at Harmel. The first thing is that we can notice is that we're called to work. We're created to work. The oldest profession is actually the gardener. That's the oldest job in the world. And God created us to work because he invites us to co-create the world with him. So that's a good start. But the thing is about our creativity in creating and co-creating with God is that when we make, we participate in our own making, right? So the man or the woman who works, who does something, is not only making the thing, but making himself or herself into the sort of person who makes that thing. So there's a collaboration with God in our own making, so that's good. But that begs the question, why should we be creative at all? Why does God want us to be creative at all? And we won't go into the deep theological dive. We spend quite a few weeks, actually, at Harmel talking about this very point. But the reason why God wants us to create, why he wants us to work, why he wants us to make, is because we are called, ultimately, to play the role of giving offering to God. Every man, in a sense, has a priestly calling to offer the world back to God.
Now, we've heard that many, if you don't mind me interjecting,
Yeah, absolutely.
we always hear like building the kingdom of God, right? Building the kingdom of God. And everything that you talked about, taking that into that context of building the kingdom of God, you can say, okay, this is what God's calling us into to do, to participate in. Right?
That's right. Yeah, he's not. I mean, what he's asking us to build this kingdom. But originally we were meant to offer it back to him. Now, clearly, due to sin and the fall, we can't do that. Christ comes. He completes our nature, essentially. He offers the whole world of creation back to the Father. But the reason for this is that God wants to draw us and all of creation into his very divine life. And so our work is not a thing we do on the way to heaven, just to keep us busy and to make sure that we have food on the table, although those are important things, right? Ultimately, what we're doing is that when we work and when we make things, that we are taking the first steps to unity with God. That's not just what it can do, that's what it is. And so when you look at the skilled trades in particular, it begins, the right view of the skilled trades begins with looking through the right view of the lenses of work. So when it comes to skilled trades themselves then, how do we begin to think about this? Well, let's consider a few types of skilled trades, right? So the welder, right? The welder builds the hospitals and machines and the houses and the buildings that we execute any number of vocations in. Same with the mason, same with the carpenter. Plumbers provide clean water. That's what they do. They don't hook up pipes, they provide clean water for healthy communities, healthy families. HVAC technicians give us clean air so that we can be healthy, so that we can have healthy families and communities. Manufacturers, they build all the tools that build all the other tools, right? So every other tool, and if you think about the world that we live in, how sophisticated it is, how sophisticated are all the workers then? How sophisticated is their knowledge and know-how that has to run such an amazing world that we live in? Now, all of these skilled trades, these are highly sophisticated, highly nuanced, highly technical knowledge sets that make a highly sophisticated world. But the thing to notice that I love about the skilled trades is that the skilled trades, apart from different types of work, are what I would call they're very proximate work. You can't do skilled trades at a distance, right? You can't do distance welding. Well, you can try, I suppose.
You would need some special tools for that.
But you can't really outsource. You can't do digital welding. You can't do digital HVAC. You're always dealing with proximate, that is close, local problems, people, needs. That means one, that's a very hard type of work to replace. But the second thing is that it means you're always dialed into the close human community where you're doing the work. You're always close. And this isn't to say that other types of work can't do this, but it's sort of baked into the skilled trade that it's always proximate. It's always a part of a close human community, which means that it's easier to see, you might say, the human aspect of the work, and through the human aspect of work, the divine calling of work. It's easier to see because it's embodied, right? And of course, there's plenty to be said, which we won't now, that the embodied workman, someone who understands the world with his body, has a special type of insight into connection. Okay. Now, one way to summarize this all up, and we're going to talk about prayer here in a second, one of the ways I like summing up with the guys here is You can summarize this all by doing a little game that we play called the etymology game. And it's a little bit of a cheat. It's not really great etymology. But if you look at the term skilled tradesman, you can see within it what a skilled tradesman, not only what he does, but what he is. So we'll start with the man part, right? I'll use it in the sort of great books, English inclusive man, like, it's an inclusive term, men and women, right? So it's a man. He's a tradesman. The word trade we tend to think of as like a profession, but and that's true. That's what it's come to mean, someone's trade. But the word actually comes from the Old English, which is related to the word tread, like the tread of your shoe. And it means the path or the road or the way of life is what it means.
That's awesome.
Yeah? Now, the word skill is also cool. It comes from the Old Norse, skill, which just went out, and it means discernment or it means ordering things. So the literal meaning of the phrase skilled tradesman is a man whose way of life is to put things in order. That's literally what the word skilled tradesman means.
Take me to school, man. I'm taking notes.
Preach
This
it.
is awesome.
Okay? A man whose way of life is to put things in order. And that's true. That's what a skilled tradesman is. He puts the world in order. He puts our communities in order. He puts himself in order, right? All with an eye towards ordering all things to their proper order, which is the praise and glory of God and ultimately unity with him. So the skilled tradesman, the man whose way of life is to put things in order, this is what a skilled tradesman is, whether or not he understands it. That's what he is. That's what he represents. That is the part he plays in the human community. And it's a wonderful calling. Not least of all because our Lord himself was a skilled tradesman. This is when he could have been anything. And yet he chose to become a skilled tradesman under the apprenticeship of his foster father Joseph. And I don't think we all really appreciate that fact. We say, well, he's a carpenter, or a mason. But not only was Christ, through him all things were made, right? But behold, I make all things new. It's not just co-creation that he's inviting us into, but it's the redemption and the remaking of the world.
For it is in him that we live and we move and we have our being.
That's exactly right. And he invites us into this work. He invites us into this work through our own work. So the skilled trades has not only the honor of sharing the general type of vocation that our Lord himself had, but it's a type of vocation, a type of way of life that speaks God's own ordering of the world itself. And that's really powerful when you not only understand that, but then when you can embody that in the work that you take on.
I think it's a whole different meaning to work when you think about that.
Yeah.
It's not like a slave. There's meaning to work. There's something that is being done here. And to unpack this and for people to understand this, you could change, right? The world of trades.
Not only change the world of trades, but work is a primary path by which
Family
God...
and community and all that.
It's a primary path by which God invites us to holiness. And so it's not simply this thing we do so that we can be holy elsewhere. It's not this thing we do so that later we can do what God wants us to do. It's not merely providing things, although it is those things as well. Now the trick is whether or not you can not only understand that, but you can come into the daily habit of living your life from that way. And it's important to gain those habits. That's why at Harmel we're attempting to build a community where men can grow into those habits. But it's about continually orienting himself to that purpose. And that leads us to the spiritual life. Mm-hmm. How this gets integrated into spiritual life and how the spiritual life is formed. So maybe you can say something about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Wow, you had a lot of really good stuff there. What I'm speaking of this evening to all of you, right? I mean, it's titled Men Fully Alive, the Spiritual Formation of Men at Work. And what really caught my attention with this title, Men Fully Alive, it's kind of like what St. Irenaeus said, right? The glory of God is man fully alive. Mm-hmm. And I'm always kind of curious to want to talk to a lot of men in the trades and just say, hey, are you fully alive? What is work doing in your life? Right? Do you know that God wants you to be fully alive? And unpack a lot of the stuff that you talked about in here. And so this is foundational. And especially when it comes to the spiritual life as well, because what is the spiritual life? The spiritual life is building a relationship, right, with our Lord. And so at Harmel here, not only brought into the humanities curriculums that you've been teaching and And all of the classes that we teach here, we encourage the guys to begin to develop that habit that you were talking about, right? That habit of prayer. Right? And so a lot of guys who come in here, some of them have established some form of prayer life. You know, some of them are praying, you know, their breviary. Some of them are reading scripture, and some of them really don't even know where to begin, right? So, but what we provide here at Harmel Academy is an opportunity for them to build that habit, right? To build that virtue, because that's what it is, right? A virtue is a good thing done over and over and over again until it becomes habitualized. A good thing directed towards that which is good, true, and beautiful. And so prayer here at the Academy is essential, right? To help support everything that you've talked about in here.
Yeah.
And so as we continue to develop a way of life here on the Academy that can help these guys enter into spirituality, right? We recognize that this is essential and that this is good. And we want these young men to be fully alive. Yeah. Even in their work.
What do you think it is that, in your experience either here at the Academy or in your pastoral work as well, what is it, especially with men, especially with working men, what is it that, what's the barrier to that? Are there common barriers either to understanding that they're called to a dynamic sort of life, or are there barriers to getting into those habits of prayer? What are the...
I think it's a mix of two. What you just mentioned, I think it's a mix of those two things that you said. I think they don't recognize that one another can be a dynamic. There can be a connection to God through what they're doing, right? And it just doesn't stop, you know, at church or at work or in their family, right? In a very categorical way. It's like, okay, I'm putting on my hard hat today and I'm going to be a worker, and then I come home and I'm going to be a father or a husband, and then when I go to church, I'm going to be, you know, a church-going person. It's just like everything begins to become integrated. Yeah. You know, you talked about one of the good things about understanding what a skilled tradesman is, you know, building the community as well too, right? So it's not just categorized, everything begins to come together in a way of synergy, right? Directed towards what? Again, you know, the man being fully alive. Yeah. And so that's what the guys do here on campus as well, right? So they're required to pray the morning prayer, right? Evening prayer, night prayer, but they do that together as a community, right? So we're building that brotherhood, we're building that fraternity, and they're doing it together. Right, all at the same time and all at the same place in our little beautiful oratory that we've kind of put together here. And so when we provide that foundation, we provide that structure that these guys can enter into, they can begin to build that virtue. And it's not one of self-possession, but one of selflessness and giving as well too.
Why is it important that we have these guys praying the Liturgy of the Hours? Like, why not something
else?
I
mean, number one, just with liturgy hours, right? It's a liturgy. So what does that mean? Liturgia, it means work, really, work of the people. And so what they're engaging in is work. And what is work? Work is prayer. What are they doing? They're building a virtue of prayer, right? So the liturgy is not only a universal prayer, right? A never-ending prayer that is going around the world, really. I mean, you have all the religious praying it, you have priests and bishops and cardinals, you have all the clergy, you have lay people praying it. And so they're entering into something that's supernatural, but also here communal, right? So when they come together, they can do that. And that's very powerful, right? Because we're trying to build that brotherhood and fraternity, because we don't want men to be separated. I think it's a very dangerous thing in our culture today. As men seem to be kind of lone rangers, and they're doing it themselves, and they're trying to do it themselves, and unfortunately, I think in many ways they're failing, because that's one of the number one things that Satan wants to do, is divide and conquer, right? Diabolos, the one who scatters. And so as we bring the guys here together in the Liturgy of the Hours, they're not scattered, right? So there's a lot of grace and there's a lot of power there. When we come together in prayer. So that's why we implement in many ways the Liturgy of the Hours. It's a liturgy, it's a universal church prayer, but at the same time it's binding for the guys too.
Yes. You used the word earlier, integration, which is big in my mind, the word integrated, right? And when I think of, the devil scattering apart, the disintegration, the disintegration of human community, but it's not only an integration of the man in the community that's here, but it's an integration of that community in the life of the church, ultimately with Christ himself in the Blessed Sacrament. So tell me a little bit about the importance of the sacramental life here at the Academy.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite things that I like to talk about, because sometimes I'll have all my welding gear on, and I'm teaching class, and someone comes up to me, Father, can you hear my confession? So I drop my welding hood, I still have all my gear on, I go in my truck, I grab my purple skull, and right outside by my truck we have confession. And then we come back in and we're welding again. I love that. It's like I'm meeting the guys right where they're at. Mm-hmm. So providing the sacraments, I mean, it's just like liturgy hour. So providing the sacraments is essential for, again, building that virtue and building that habit.
Yeah.
So as a chaplain here, assigned by the bishop for 3 years, and hopefully another 3, and another 3, and another 3.
Is he watching? Is the bishop watching?
I don't know. He might be dialing in.
Yeah, he's dialing in for sure. Yeah.
But so as a chaplain here, right, Wednesdays and Saturdays we have confessions and mass.
Yeah.
Right. So we're starting to bring in exposition and benediction, and hopefully we can start doing that, once a month as well too.
Yeah.
I'm also a pastor of a fairly large parish and school, so my time is somewhat limited here, but I'd like to obviously spend more time so that I can bring the sacraments.
Yeah.
I love welding, and I love teaching it. I love welding, but first and foremost is the spiritual well-being of the young men here, and to be here for them, not only for confession and mass and their spiritual direction as well too, and just to be someone, hey Father, it's 10 o'clock, I need to talk to you about something, or a text. I'm here for the guys in that way. Chaplain, sure. Their spiritual father, absolutely.
Yeah. What I love so much about that as well is that there's an integration even there, right? The fact that the confession, all right, you just step outside of the shop for a second, right? And the idea is that where Christ comes is in our work.
And that's what we're doing, right? Virtue of prayer and all that stuff. But what we're trying to do, which everyone should be trying to do, is entering into that relationship with Jesus Christ, and then taking Jesus wherever you go.
Yeah.
Into whatever you do, there's the integration, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's important.
Well, good. Well, let's actually use that as a segue, this integration, because this is a word we talk about a lot with the study here as well. We have something that seems a little odd, which is this is a trade school, but there's a very sort of robust integrated humanities component of that. And
stuff you're teaching is the stuff that I learned in grad school and seminary.
Now, what I'm going to talk about.
Don't want to scare you.
I don't want to scare anyone.
It's good stuff.
It is, but
he presents it in a way where you can understand it.
It's. I hope so. We'll see how the next oral exams go here next week. But I do want to talk about the rigor, and we'll get to that. But so when Isaac and I were talking about this, the phrase that came to mind to explain it, which I realized in the same way that I'm referencing dialing into a live stream, I'm realizing that my pop culture references are pretty old, because I told Isaac, I said, well, maybe we should call this talk, You Got Chocolate in My Peanut Butter, Why Trades and Humanities Are Surprisingly Good Fits. But then I realized that commercial is probably 40 years old, and most of the people, maybe even some of the parents, wouldn't recognize it.
I didn't know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, so here's what it is. Years ago, Reese's peanut butter cups used to be weird because it was chocolate and peanut. It seems obvious, right? But once upon a time, that was a weird candy, and the advertising for it was this set of commercials that were on television that had these people that would bump into each other, and their peanut butter and their chocolate would mix, and say, you got peanut butter in my chocolate.
Oh, I remember that.
Okay, yeah, pretty old, right? So it's not a great metaphor, but we're going to go with it. But it is the same thing.
Well, it's in our heads now. So.
We look at the chocolate and peanut butter, obviously they go together, but at one time it was weird. In the same way, skilled trades and humanities may not sound like they go together, but I think it's the same. So I want to go back to something I just said, this idea about this higher sense of the skilled trades as being a cooperation with our Lord in the creation and redemption of the world, right? His creation and redemption of the world. The question is, okay, so what do our books have to do with it? Well, the reality is, in the same way that these guys live in a community with one another, they're not lone rangers. They're entering into a community and into the church larger. That community extends through time. I mean, they're not. The church is not just now.
Right.
It was before, and it's in the future, and it's now.
Yeah.
And there's a type of, the classical piety of virtue, honoring your origins. Well, the reality is that the role that our work, the role that our daily trades have to play as a key path to our holiness, this is not a new idea. This is pretty old idea, in fact. Like I said, it's as old as the garden. Okay, so the first thing is that there's a much larger conversation happening. And there's lots of people who have thought about this. There's lots of people who are worth meeting. Now, when we talk about the humanities, we tend to think of it as a series of subjects or departments at a university. I think that's exactly the wrong way to think about it. Humanities very simply means the study of what it means to be human. And the problem is that we have disintegrated those humanities in some of our methods, and not always for wrong reasons or bad reasons. Sometimes it's very important to specialize. But the humanities generally are all points of view on what it means to be human. So let me just tell you a little bit about how we do it here, and then I want to tell you about why we do it that way. So first of all, like we said, it's integrated. So it's not a philosophy class here or an English class there or a literature class there. It's one class. And for our apprenticeship track students, it's essentially a four-semester class, 2 full years. And it's thematic. So we're not trying to produce professional philosophers. We're not trying to produce English professors. Good Lord knows we don't need any more of those in the world. Okay? What we're trying to do is we're trying to form the men's imagination, their power to be able to see the world. And that's what the power of the humanities do. They give us different glasses that we can put on to form how it is we see the world. And it's formed by the wisdom of those who've gone before us. Another thing that's important to notice about our approach to humanities here is that we employ what's called a monastic model of study as opposed to an academic model. There's this one, I didn't know this when we started, but I didn't have that language. There's this wonderful book called The Love of Learning and the Pursuit of God or something like this by a Benedictine named Jean Leclerc. And this was one of Pope Benedict's favorite books, actually. And it's a history of Benedictine study, which it's a real page turner. And but the opening chapter explains that the church has given us 2 models of study. The first is the academic model of study, and this is the one we're all familiar with. This comes out of scholasticism. And what we do is that we sort of isolate a subject and we go deep in it for its own sake. And that's very good. So if you think of the sciences, right, we sort of isolate it from its context and we go deep into it. And there's a lot that can be learned. Most of our universities, almost entirely, all of our schools of learning are built on an academic model. And there's a lot to be said about it. But Leclerc points out there's a second model that didn't take off in the church because of what it was. It was the monastic model. The study in the monastery saw study not simply as an isolated subject to go deep into to know about it, but as the context to know God better. The point of study was this aspect of creation is something that can teach us of God and is an occasion to get to meet and to know God. And that's very much the approach here. We're not trying to, we don't write research papers. We're not trying to become masters of a particular discipline. What we're trying to do is we're trying to use the wisdom of those who've gone before us in order to see God more clearly, to see what he's asking of us in this time, and to form our imagination so we see him more clearly in the world. Now, methodologically, we get this question a lot. So, well, there are term papers. Well, no. It's largely Socratic. It's very heavily discussion-based. And we employ something called the Oxford model. I can say more about this, or we can post some resources later if people want to know. Essentially, what it means is every 2 weeks, the man has an oral exam with a small group. And at the beginning of those 2 weeks, I give him a set of questions and a set of readings and the opportunities for lectures. He doesn't have to go to lectures, but he will if he knows what's good for him.
And those are the Inquisitions.
And yes, and then the Inquisitions at the end of every 2 weeks. They come in, and we get to just ask them any of the questions. And
it's outstanding to watch, really.
It is. And now the first couple times, guys kind of don't know what to do. And it's very nerve-wracking. But after they get a couple under their belt, especially the big semester-ending Inquisitions, right, where we invite men from all over the community, it's something to watch. And this is really the goal. The goal is that these men have the wherewithal and, you might say, the intellectual fortitude, the imagination, to orient themselves around the human truth of who they are, what their work is, what their families is in their community. Men who can articulate and execute this understanding of life, but then who can model it and teach it to other men.
Now, what we're doing here, what you're doing here at Harmel makes it very unique. Right? So I was having a conversation with someone at church, coffee and donuts, young man, and someone sitting on the other side of the table when we were talking about the trades. And he's interested in going to trades. He's interested in Harmel Academy. And then this other person kind of piped up and said, well, yeah, you have this college down the road, then you have this other one down the road, and you have all these opportunities. You need to look at all these other trade schools, you know.
Well, this goes back to the not college thing, right? Oh, trades are not college. I've had people say to me, well, I don't know if my son would be good as a tradesman because he's pretty strong academically. As if somehow tradesmen aren't smart or something. I don't know if...
Well, I know a lot of tradesmen who've built multi-million-dollar companies.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, if you've ever met a farmer...
And then changed the world as
Yeah.
a philanthropist. And
That's right. So the idea is that this is not like a tack on to the trades. This is not like it's trades over here or deep intellectual exploration over there. It's not. That's a false dichotomy.
Is there anything out there like this, though?
Well, I don't know. I think there are a number that are coming soon. I think there's going to be more of this. And one of the interesting things about it is this is a good way for a lot of families. They've understood why we approach this the way we do. And it's this. We talked about the tradesman dealing with the proximate real, the thing that's close and here and I can touch it,
Yep.
and I have an embodied experience of the world, right? An embodied knowledge of reality. Well, it's the same thing. The trades that are proximate, it's an embodied experience. It's an integrated experience, right? Because I can't solve one problem out of context from all the other problems, right? I mean, one problem in the machine may actually have 10 causes, right? So I can't just pull it apart and replace it, right? Okay. This is also something. This embodied, this proximate, close, this integrated approach to study is something like, for example, homeschoolers understand. They understand. A lot of homeschool families understand that, I'm close to my child. I want an integrated formation of my child, right? And it needs to take his entire embodied self. Mm-hmm. And that philosophy of education is something that a lot of our homeschool families that come to us, a lot of classical schools, they get that. Now, that isn't to say this is only for homeschoolers or classical. I'm not saying that. All I mean to say is that the sort of approach, the exact model we do here and how we marry with the trades, I don't know of a lot of places that do that. But the philosophy behind it, I think you're seeing more and more in Catholic education. You're more and more understanding that education is not just this sort of department that you send over there. I'm just going to send my kids over there to be educated, and then the other parts of their lives are over there. It's integrated, it's proximate, it's real. And in the context of the trades, it really becomes powerful. Because one of the things the trades does is it puts you in contact with reality in a way that, unfortunately, a lot of our philosophies and experience in the world and politics and education that don't, right? So much of our world is built on the idea that reality is it's something, whatever I want it to be, right? It's a fashion or a
customize it.
Yeah, I customize reality, right? But there's a wonderful book, Matthew Crawford's book, Shop Class of Soulcraft, where he talks about fixing motorcycles. And we make a big deal of this in the first year with our apprentices. In essence, Crawford says fixing motorcycles is very good for the soul. Because you don't tell the motorcycle when it's fixed. It tells you when it's fixed. Right?
When it works.
When it works. When it starts, it's fixed. You can't say it's fixed. And the other thing is that a motorcycle, like especially the ones with a Kickstarter, they kick back. So tradesmen deal with reality in a way that it kicks back. Yeah. So that's true. So there is less baloney that tradesmen put up with. They know baloney when they smell it. But the other thing is that when you marry that not only with the humanities, you marry it with the spiritual life, then you realize that not only is reality real, solid, and it kicks back, it's something to push against, but it's actually something that invites you. Reality invites you in to a very real life, the full life you said before. I love the line you said, right, the Saint Irenaeus, right? The glory of God is man fully alive. And we hear this a lot, but it's the second part of that, which is my favorite. The glory of God is man fully alive, and the life of God, and the life of man is the vision of God. Yeah. Right? The life of man is the vision of God. That is his life. And that life comes to us, we know as Catholic, comes to us in the proximate, integrated, real stuff of the earth. Right? And so that is a path for holiness. That is a path for intimacy with our Lord. And so we're just very excited that this integration of work and prayer and study can be built in a community, and we're doing everything we can to share it and make it available to people, tell people about it. So, So listen, why don't we do this? We got a number of questions. We got a list of questions here that have been submitted in advance. Are we on track, Isaac?
7:14.
Holy
A
cow.
little fast, but...
Wow. Well, all right. We're very efficient here.
Yeah.
There's a hockey game on tonight or something. All right. So let's start with a couple questions here, and then if you've got additional questions, Isaac, are they coming in over there for the We got some questions coming in? Okay.
Are they coming?
All right, so if you have questions,
Cool.
put them in the chat window. I'm just going to pick a few to go with. Henry Goitz asks us, can you have a job while attending school? Henry, thank you for the question. The answer is not only can you, but you must. That is a requirement here. You got to be working. Our gap year students have to be working. Our apprenticeship students are put into an apprenticeship once they're ready and they interview for that. But even before they are, learning what work can teach you is done not by sitting on your rear end reading about it.
No.
It's by going to work.
Put your hand to it.
So yes, so we have a number of, so the apprenticeships are done with a bunch of collaborating partners. We have a number of manufacturers and contractors around that take our apprenticeships. The guys have to win the apprenticeship themselves through interviewing. And we make, as a school, we make no guarantees that you're going to win any of those apprenticeships. Although, if you've made it here, you've got a pretty good chance, and there's good places looking for good men. And we help you prepare for those interviews, get placed in that apprenticeship. But even before you get there, if you know, as soon as you come here, we have a number of other employers who are always looking for good men who know how to work, and living that daily life of work.
Yeah, just putting you in that environment.
Yep, got to know what it's like, and it helps to make a few bucks if you want to buy motorcycles.
Motorcycle,
Yeah,
that kicks back.
yeah, motorcycles that kick back. As we're waiting for this question, I'm sorry, I'm gonna riff here. I don't know if you know this. I won't say who. Last semester, speaking of motorcycles, there was a student here at Harmel, and I caught wind of something. For a little birdie told me. And so I asked the student, and I said, student, I didn't say student, but his name.
Yeah.
Student, is there currently...
I know who it is.
Is there currently a motorcycle in your dorm room? And he said, no, sir, there is not a motorcycle in my dorm room. And I thought, that doesn't sound quite right. So, being a wily old man who's done this for a while, I said, student, although I didn't say student, I said his name. I said, student, is there what was once a motorcycle in your dorm room?
Yes.
And he says, yes, sir, there is what was once a motorcycle in my dorm room.
It's not working yet, so it's not a motorcycle.
That's right, it's disintegrated.
I thought you were gonna say no. It's in the stairwell. It's not in my room. It's not in my dorm room.
No,
it's not, sir.
And sure enough, I was giving a tour to some families a couple weeks after that. I just happened to open the doors. We were showing people through the dorms, and there was all of it.
It was our first class of guys come through. They were just had a motorcycle kick.
Yeah.
They all got motorcycles and we're working on them. And
Yeah. Sorry, moms, but that happens here. Okay. All right. So, good question, Carrie. I'm sorry, Henry. Carrie, have any machinist students completed their journeyman certification in their home state rather than in Michigan? Well, the answer is no, for two reasons. First of all, is that we're so new, no one has gotten to the end of their on-the-job training. Mm-hmm. So let me just say a little bit about how apprenticeships generally work. There are two components to an apprenticeship, and it changes slightly depending on the trade, depending on the state. Usually they're governed by the state's Department of Labor. And it has basically two components, what's called on-the-job training, what's called related technical instruction. So we call that RTI and OTJ, right? On-the-job training, related technical instruction. Here at Harmel, the apprentices, typically what happens, like the traditional apprenticeship, you go to work full-time for someone, you work full-time, they send you to school at night. Yeah. And the amount of time on-the-job hours you need is about the equivalent of 4 years of full-time work, more or less. And then so usually what they do is they'll just spread out the RTI at night over those 4 years. Well, because the formation of the man is important to what we do here and the community aspect is central, we front load all the RTI. So essentially they're full-time students. It's about 16 credit hours a semester, sometimes 13, sometimes 14, depending on the program and the semester. So all of their RTI is done, but they'll still have however many hours of on-the-job training they have to complete after that. So depending on when their apprenticeship starts, how many hours they work while they're a student here. Guys are somewhere between 24 and 30 hours a week. So you put that on top of 16 credit hours. It's a busy load. And then after they're done with the RTI, they graduate at Harmel. They still have maybe another 2.5 years of on-the-job hours they have to get.
Halfway.
Yeah. So the first part of the question is that we actually graduated our first class last May. Yeah. So those guys are still getting their OTJ. But the other thing is that we currently don't have any cooperative arrangements with shops outside of Michigan. That's a tricky thing. Maybe one day we'd like to do that, but in the meantime, what we're looking for is guys who are willing to say, okay, I'm gonna commit to this apprenticeship. It's gonna be about 4.5 years of my life, and if they're coming from out of state, one of the things we look for is okay, we'd like you to commit to your employer for your apprenticeship. Now, obviously, we can't make you do that, but that's what we're looking for in the guys at Harmel in the meantime. So, great question, Carrie.
Just about all those guys have, right?
Yeah.
Our first graduating class.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The one who hasn't has gone on to discern a religious vocation.
That's right.
So,
And then most of them have a house. They're living together.
Yeah,
too.
the guys
So it's
that
like they're
graduated,
continuing that fraternity,
right.
that brotherhood community that was established.
Yep.
It was beautiful to see that.
and the guys, I don't know if you've heard this yet or not. The guys who are about to graduate, there's a group of them that'll be doing the same thing, getting a house together, continuing their.
That's right. I'm supposed to
cycle.
bless it. They talked about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So very good. Okay. So Brian Jamwa, please let us know when you come by for a tour or an open house. Hey, just email us at hello@harmelacademy.org. Isaac sets out all sorts of tours. Just let us know when you want to come. We'd be happy to host you. Typically Tuesdays and Fridays, right? But if that doesn't work for you, we can work something else out. Okay. Other questions, Isaac?
Yeah, so I got a question from Finn in California. What is every single trade option that we offer here?
Good. Well, it's not very many so far. Right now we have an electrician trade program for apprentices. And we have manufacturing. We have 2 tracks of manufacturing. So basically the first year the manufacturing track is pretty much the same, and then you specialize the second year. 1 track for machinists, 1 track for, well, it depends on who you ask what it's called. Machine techs, millwrights, there's all sorts of names for it. But essentially it's the difference between a machinist is someone in manufacturing who uses machines to make things. A millwright or a machine tech is someone who builds the machines that make things, right? So you're either a machine builder or a machine user.
Right.
And we chose those primarily because in West Michigan, in all of Michigan, heavy manufacturing here. In the future, in fact, we're currently going through the process of deciding what our future trade apprenticeship programs will be. We'll probably announce the next one this fall, but in the future, we're hoping to have that around maybe 4 or 5 apprentice track programs. We also have a gap year program, which is like a sampler gap year.
You can sample all those trades.
Yeah. So
also attached to MS, the Machine Systems Technology class is the welding and the
Right.
metal fabrication class.
Full year of that.
Yeah. And so what I've done is I've kind of taken that and I've created something more robust.
Yeah.
And so we go way above and beyond just the requirements that need to be met for MST in that welding department.
Yeah.
So I bring in the 23 years part-time, full-time of my welding and metal fab into that class. And so
Pretty robust welding.
Yes, it is. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
MST, by the way, Machine and Systems Technology is the formal name of the program. MST. It's also the nickname of one of our students for some reason. I don't know.
I can't figure that one out yet.
Okay.
I don't know. Sometimes they have their own little world
Yeah,
in there, their own little ways
They definitely
of
do.
naming each other.
Good.
Things.
We got a question popping up here. Great. Joseph from Pennsylvania. Do you need any prior trade experience before attending? Well, that's an excellent question. We do like to see some experience if you're applying to the apprenticeship track, right? In other words, when we ask a guy to commit to the 4.5 year journey of an apprenticeship, we want him to have a sense that he's going to commit to this. Now, it doesn't mean that when you commit to this track, you're doing it forever and ever, amen, right? But what it means is it's very important that we set that goal, you hit that goal, you get your journeymans, because it's just important to your formation, and it's also the sort of thing where trades education is a little bit different than majoring in college. If you go to college and you spend your majoring, and then you change your major, a lot of your credits move over to that new major. But if you spend a year in an apprenticeship to be a machine builder, it's not like that transfers over to become an electrician, right? You start over again. So we really like guys who are entering the apprenticeship track to have some measure of experience around that trade. Doesn't have to be much. For example, the machine builders, guys that like to wrench in their cars, that's a pretty good sign. You kind of get a sense of what it is. Now, for those that don't have that, that's why we actually designed this gap year program. It's a year with 8 different trades, basically month-long modules for each one, introductory explorations of things like welding and fabrication and electrical and HVAC and all this sort of
Carpentry,
stuff.
forging.
Forging. They were just forging over there today. And what this does is it gives you some basic, it gives you a sense of what it feels like to work in this trade. Because again, like I said before, it's easy to romanticize it, but sometimes you realize, like, I don't like the feel of grease. Right? And okay, well.
Maybe you like to feel sawdust.
Yep.
Who knows, right?
Yep. So that's an excellent question, Joseph. Bob Martin, what does the humanities course look like with an MST course? What does the average day look like for the two? Very good. So basically what happens for an MST guy is they have, depending on which year they're in, they either have their MST courses in the morning or in the afternoons. But usually what it means is their study, we try to integrate the study as well. So for example, in the humanities, like we said, we have these things called inquisitions. Every 2 weeks there's an oral exam. But there are also a series of tutorials and lectures and things like this. And we try to put those scattered throughout the day. And the inquisitions themselves are held at around lunch for 2 hours. So the guys will go to their MST coursework for the morning, and then they'll come to lunch and we'll do basically a 2-hour discussion oral exam, and then they go back to the shop. So we try to, it hasn't always been that way. Sometimes we stick at the end of the day, but we found that guys are just a little tuckered.
Well, yeah, a little tired.
But we try to integrate it into the day itself. And we also try very hard to keep the cycle of the day, the cycle of a working man. So we try not to have classes at night, for example. We want the guys to get up, they go to prayer, they go to breakfast, they go to work. Now the work may be work at their shop, or work may be work in this shop in their classes, or work may be study. But then they go to lunch, and then they end their day, and then they pray, and then they have dinner. And we want that cycle every day is kind of what we're trying
if
to
they
do.
want to work out, they can go work out.
Yeah.
A really good workout facility here too. So
Yeah.
a lot of guys do that, play basketball or hit the gym or.
Yeah. It is a busy day. I mean, it's the guys. One of the things that's interesting is I don't get the sense that even the guys that like to stay up late, I don't think some of the guys let them, because some of the guys get up at 4:30 in the morning if they're working.
Yeah.
So, age restrictions. Isaac is asking about age restrictions. Well, we want you to be 18. You need to be able to drive 18, especially if you're an apprenticeship student. Depending on how long after the school year you turn 18, there's some leeway there. But we really don't. We really want you to be 18, especially for your employment. There's just a lot of, you might say, safety. A lot of employers just want you to be 18 to be able to work in their shops. Maximos asks, Maximus.
I like it.
I like
Where?
that.
Let me see.
Right there, Maximus. Yeah, that's
I like it.
well done, Maximus's parents.
Yes.
Well done. Are there any particular educational subjects one must know before attending Harmel Academy?
Educational subjects.
Well, we like you to be. We want you to, even if you don't like to read, we like you to commit to it. I tell the guys, give me an hour to study a night. It's usually not that much, but an hour to study a night. So you don't have to have super solid math, but you need to be comfortable enough with at least probably Algebra 2. We do have in the MST program, there's a math component to it that basically takes you up through like a practical trigonometry. But any other courses other than that? I don't think so. No, typical high school diploma or GED is really all we're looking for.
It's kind of nice to get a blank slate in here where there's no deconstruction, but we can just build right from a solid foundation. I would say, at least from what I've experienced with the guys here from a spiritual perspective, is, familiarize yourself with Liturgy of the Hours. At least begin to do that.
Yeah, great.
You know, what does morning prayer look like? What does evening prayer? A history of Liturgy of the Hours, something like that. Begin to dive into Scripture. I mean, things like that. Begin to work on your prayer life with Christ. Get a jump start on that. I think that that would help.
That's very good. We didn't mention this. We spoke before, but especially the study component, how it's related to prayer. One of the things we really emphasize over and over and over with the guys is the importance of attention, being able to attend, and
it being present.
Yeah.
So that you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the showing up. You got to show up. And you have to be able to focus on God. So I would say, anything you can do to just get in the practice of attention. Put the phone away. Put the phone away for 5 minutes a day, right? And just pray. 5 minutes of Scripture. Just even a little bit. Just a little time. And it's not so much like you might say that the quality, however you would be tempted to judge that. It's the discipline and the routine.
Being present, being attentive, and being open.
Yeah. And that really
You're
is
just sitting in silence and you don't know what to say or you don't know what to do, but
you're there.
Asking God to be with you in that moment.
And that's another point that's interesting to Maximus of the trades and studying the humanities all together, 99% of it is just showing up.
Oh yeah.
99% is you just show up.
Oh yeah.
So, very good. Okay, let's see here.
A lot of questions.
Yeah,
Nice.
well, we covered that one. Let's go back over here a little bit. Do you need a high school diploma to attend? Suzanne, no. GED is fine. We take a GED. The reading list for a man. What's first on the reading list? Asked John. Well, I don't know if I want to say this because this is the one that kind of gets people. Well, it depends. The apprentices. The gap year student, the first year reading this year was the book Endurance
Yes.
by
which
Alfred
is
Lansing.
Outstanding.
Great. Everyone should read that book.
Yeah.
But the first for the apprentices is a postmodern play called Waiting for Godot, and it's more about making the men uncomfortable and disorienting them. But there's great spiritual lessons to be learned as well. So, can we erase that part? That kind of scares people off. Can we?
Rewind. Delete.
Okay, we talked about some of that. Are Christians, though not Catholic, welcome? Asked Jay and Kristen. The answer is absolutely, no question. One of the things that we strive to do here, very clearly, is this is a community of Catholic men, but all Christians are welcome, most certainly. The one thing we just ask is that we ask that they understand that this is the community they're entering into, and the same requirements apply. We have non-Catholic students that are here, and we have the same requirements of them. They have to hit the same daily office. They have to say the prayers, the same course of study, the same commitment to sort of moral excellence, the same commitment to their spiritual life.
I'm available for them as well too.
Absolutely. So
as their chaplain.
and it's been great. I think two or three. An Anglican, Reformed, and maybe 2 Anglicans, I think. Something.
Yeah, it's been 3 or 4 since.
But yeah, most certainly welcome. And we just ask that you commit to the same sort of spiritual disciplines. And I mean, clearly, you're not under the obligation to the Holy Mass on Sundays like our guys are. But we very much encourage even our non-Catholic brothers they got to get plugged into a community of faith.
Yeah.
And some of the guys do that with a church community here. Some of the guys just go to Mass with the other guys. So it's up to them. Okay. What else we got here, Isaac? Any other new ones here? Average day.
Yeah. So can you guys talk about the availability of traditional Mass and sacraments in the area?
Yeah. So some of the guys will attend. There's a parish in town where the older Mass is offered. So some of the guys do that.
Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Sacred Heart of Jesus. Some of the guys go down there for that. That's great. One of the things too, a lot of people ask us about, well, do you have Mass on campus? Well, the answer is no, and there's the old reason, what I think is the new reason. The old reason is before you were officially appointed as the chaplain, we didn't have a way to do that. Like, I'm not going to say Mass. So, but the other thing is you're a parish priest. You have just up the road. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we realized, we said, well, make sure, guys, you're getting to Mass. There's lots of wonderful parishes within a stone's throw of the campus here. But then almost by accident, we realized that, no. That's important to get involved in a parish.
Yeah.
Because the life of a man is not the life of a sort of like hermetically sealed community. You go to a parish, you get involved in a parish, and there's young, and there's old, and there's rich, and there's poor, and there's men, and there's women, and all sorts of nationalities, and you invest in that parish. So there's lots of very solid, Grand Rapids is a very vibrant Catholic community here. Like I said, there's half a dozen just fantastic parishes just within a stone's throw here. I know one of the guys who has one of the closest ones just up the road. Is yours the closest to campus?
St. Isidore's.
St. Isidore's.
I think St. Isidore's.
Okay, it's closer.
I am about 12, 15 minutes away.
12, 15 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things that are available there. Good. Any other questions coming through?
Yeah, I got one.
Okay.
So do students in the gap year program need to have a car, or do they have public transportation available for them?
Very good. No, we ask that all students have transportation available to them. Where we are currently located, the public transportation doesn't come out this far, I don't think. No.
I have not seen any.
No.
Any public buses here.
But practically what ends up happening, we ask each guy, they need a vehicle because they have to have a job and they need to get to work. Practically what ends up happening is a lot of guys, I think, carpool, especially the apprentices that are in the same shops.
They will.
So definitely, they don't necessarily always drive, but we do ask that they have reliable transportation. Yeah, good question. What else?
Do we provide housing for the students?
Do we provide?
That's something we didn't even talk about.
That's true. Yeah, so we're located currently on the campus of Kuiper College, which is a very small sort of Reformed Bible college on the northeast side, and we've got our own dedicated dorm building and our own classrooms and our own laboratory, this sort of thing. So we have our own dorm space. The men live in spiritual households. Each floor is a spiritual household. The first floor has an oratory where the Blessed Sacrament is and where they pray.
Yep.
And so it's, if you've seen a dorm, it's like a dorm. It smells like motorcycles, oddly. The thing is different, it smells like motorcycles. I don't know why.
Yeah, but there's no motorcycles though.
No, it
there's-
smells like
there's-
what was once motorcycles. Uh-huh. Good. What else we got?
How many students do you guys accept each year?
Well, that's a good question. So what we do is for this gap year that we're running right now, this is our first, basically this is a prototype year, right?
Yeah.
And a good size, for right now we have 5 or 6 guys in that program is the first cohort. A good size for next year is going to be somewhere around 12 or 15. Now we're not putting a cap on that, but that's a pretty good size for the next cohort. We try to limit the electrical students just because the way that the apprenticeships work and the availabilities are a little bit different. So we kind of limit that to 6 to 8 guys in an incoming class. 8 would be kind of pushing it. And then the machine guys, we don't have any caps there. So, right now, the incoming class, I think we're hoping for another 12 in that cohort would be great. But we could definitely handle more than that currently. Long-term planning, we're hoping to get to about 20 incoming students per program per class. Like I said, with electrical being a little bit different than that. But we're still taking applications, rolling applications. The only thing that we're kind of get a little touchy on, capping on, is the electrical program. So, yeah, great question.
So Kathy asks, what kind of job do you require for the gap year students?
Great question. What kind of job do we require for the gap year students? Well, as long as it's a job, really, it could be that simple. We have some friends and collaborating partners that are in trades, or you might say trades adjacent. For example, for a couple of years, we sent several guys to like a demolition company. Right?
Yeah. Construction. It could.
So we tried to make it physical.
One worked at Lowe's.
Yep.
It was just.
But yeah, it could be retail. Yeah.
Work.
Yeah. We with the gap year students, the work component is mostly about getting them into the routines and rhythms of working. How do I deal with a boss and coworkers? How do I make sure that I'm getting up and getting to work on time?
Getting up on time. Yeah. Being accountable. Being presentable in that respect. And
yeah. So there's really no requirements there other than we just want the guy. We want the guy working. And there's plenty of opportunities around here to do that. The apprenticeship guys, it's the same thing until they get in their apprenticeships and they win the interview through the apprenticeship. But and then they're in their shops. So yeah, great. All right, so we maybe have tapped this guy.
I think so.
Classes should I take the final 2 years? What classes should I take the final 2 years of high school that would serve me well at high school? This is Patrick Hoke. This is a good question.
High school?
In high school, yeah, I would say. Listen, like I said, math is good. Is excellent. It's really, one of the things that serves the men well is not exactly the classes, but the sort of other activities. So one of the things, guys that are involved in teams of some sort, like if it's athletic teams or robotics teams, team extracurriculars are really important. It's not so much the head knowledge that you get in the classroom, very important as it is, but it is really the men who are learning to live a life in community and cooperation with others. So Patrick, those would be the things I would say. If you're into athletics, that's super solid. If you're not into athletics, find some other service group, or like I said, robotics teams. We just had the robotics team from Catholic Central here today, which is awesome.
Oh, you did?
Cool. Which is super cool. So anything that is like team activities, team service, that would serve you very well.
Do they still have like wood shop, metal fab shop? Do they still have?
Yeah.
Tool and die
Well,
shop.
I don't say that because most places don't.
I know.
But yeah, but wood shop,
If
tool
they have
shop.
those classes.
Yep.
When, you know,
Or if you have
Take
career
those.
opportunities for career centers, right? If
Yes.
there's sometimes there are engineering classes that you can take at career centers or automotive, depending what you're interested in. Those would be excellent as well. Yep.
So I got another question from Maximos.
Oh,
Says,
Maximus,
do you
man.
or will you offer a program for becoming an automotive mechanic / technician?
That is Maximus. Without getting into it, that is one of the ones we're looking at. We are looking at an auto and diesel program. Now, whether or not that's the one we go with as our next one is TBD. And like I said, we're in the process now. Hopefully, by the end of this summer, we'll be able to say what the next one is. But that is definitely one that we're looking at. Yep. Great. There's a lot of work there as well. So, good. Here's how soon do you hope to establish additional programs? That's from Gabe. That is, like I said, this fall we hope to announce the next program, but it would be the next year before we actually were able to launch the next program. We've also got some other types of partnerships that, God willing, we might be able to begin talking about in a little more detail in the coming months, which I'm very excited about as well. Some smaller programming that aren't full-on apprenticeship types programs as well, so be looking out for those. Here's a good question from Sarah Kwilinski. She says, Sundial Classical is launching its Arts and Trades program for children's ages 5 to 10 next fall. Any suggestions for resources and programming at this age? Well, welding, 9-year-old welders, right?
Well, careful with that one.
Yeah, okay, maybe not welding. Any suggestions for resources and for programming at this age? Wow, that's a really good question.
That's a really good idea.
I haven't looked too deeply into that as far as like trades work goes, but and by no means am I an expert.
5 to 10-year-olds?
Yeah, 5-year-olds. What would you do with a 5-year-old?
I don't know. I'm puzzles, Lincoln Logs. I don't know.
Yeah, Legos are big, and there's lots of Lego.
Showing 5-year-olds what tools are. I remember my grandpa did that to me. He took me out into the barn and showed me, what a rake was, what a shovel was, and how to use it.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah,
As simple as that.
I'll tell you, when I was a kid, I remember when I worked for my father in his shop, the very first tool, probably the very first tool, your dad, I'm guessing.
Pocket rag?
No.
For the tooling? Okay.
The broom.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
the broom.
Yeah.
Yes, there was.
So,
it was the
you gotta
broom.
learn
I was
how to do the
introduced
broom.
to the broom.
I will say, I'll be
That's
thankful.
fascinating. I like this.
5 to 10-year-olds?
Well, I mean, like teaching them something of
Well,
something
I
of
do know
trades.
there's
At least-
lots of programming around Legos, which sounds funny, but there's lots
No,
of different
there
Lego
is.
programming.
Yeah.
That's very good. There's also, you might look into, there are different offerings like this. One of the ones my kids are interested in is, you might look up a fellow named Mark Rober. He's a former NASA engineer. Now he has a company called, you Google it, Mark Rober. He has a company where basically he builds these engineering kits for kids of this age. Well, for all ages. And then what you do is you build basic machines that he sends you. So you might look into some of his curriculum. Maker something? I can't remember. Anyway, Mark Rober, R-O-B-E-R is his name. You might look up his, and then there are other programs like his as well that might be helpful. But yeah, I love the idea. Just pull out the tools and let them touch it, let them feel them, let them hit each other with them.
We never did that growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Mm-hmm.
So Sarah, you had commented and said, I can attest that our students do know how to use a broom. Good to know we're on the right track.
Good. Yep. On the broom is a big thing. So okay, let's see what else we got here. Marianne asks, is the school based on Salesian principles, and do you use AP, SAT, and or high school grades to decide on applicants? So let me take the first one, the second one first. We do look at high school grades. I will say, however, that we're not necessarily looking at GPA. We're looking to have a conversation with a young fella about his experience, what his academic experience is. So we do make that a point of conversation. AP, SAT, not as much. We actually asked the guys to take something called an SLEQ test. It's a very basic, quick test. It's like a 10-minute test. And it's sort of maybe a mechanical aptitude test is a way of thinking about it. It's pretty reliable as far as measuring a fellow's base talents and interests in mechanical work. But we don't otherwise standardized tests. We don't use anything else. The first question is the school based on Salesian principles? And I would say I don't think so because I don't know what those are. So Marianne, I'd be happy to know more about Salesian principles and see if they accord with Salesian principles. They very well may, but I can answer positively they're not consciously based on Salesian principles. No, good. Okay, excellent questions. We covered that one. There's Maximus again. Covered that one. Average day, we talked about that one. Good. Okay, any other questions coming through? All right. Well, feel free to send those questions in. Just got a couple of things we'll talk about by way of kind of landing the plane. The first is that, I would encourage everyone, even if you're, how should I say, if you're not interested in the program that Harmel has itself, which is great, I would encourage everyone to begin the discussions with the young men, the young women in their house around this idea of work that we talked about before. When you're discerning your vocation, the question is not what do you want to do. That is a question. It's an important question.
Yeah.
But that question is the occasion itself to do what it is you're called to do.
Yeah. What did God create you?
What did He create you to do?
To be, right? A saint for sure, but.
And one of the things that we emphasize here is that there's a way in which a man has one job. Actually, work is actually pretty simple, and it's something that a tradesman can sort of understand very easily. And it's this: an apprentice, what he does is he watches what the master does, and then he does what he does. That's the essence of apprenticeship. That's also the essence of the spiritual life.
Yeah.
So man has one job, eyes on God. So I would encourage family members, high schoolers considering this. The question is, yes, would I like this? Am I good at this? Do I have these talents? Those are all very important discerning questions. But if it's not rooted in eyes on the master, what is he doing? What is he doing? And what is he inviting me to join into? Then those questions aren't going to get you very far. So that would be something I would sort of encourage you to make a part of your prayer. That's one thing. The second thing is that if you want to come for a visit, then like we said earlier, we'd love to have you if you'd like to schedule a call or FaceTime or something like that and talk more about your specific interest either in the trades generally, in vocation generally, or Harmel Academy. Please reach out and do that. We also, so far, we're pretty small. We're still in startup phase. And so almost everyone that's come to us has come by way of word of mouth.
Yeah.
And that is in terms of people that are interested in our work. That's in terms of the students. That's in terms of our supporters and our donors. It's almost been entirely word of mouth. So I just want to say, please, if you think this is of any value or what we've talked about tonight is of any value to you or those you know, just please share it with people you know. Tell them about what we're doing and invite them to ask us to figure out how we can serve them as well. And as a nonprofit executive director, I would be remiss, we always have to do this, is we rely very much on the generosity of our friends, our supporters, our community to help us grow. So if you or anyone you know would be interested in supporting this work, I would just ask that you pop over to our website, harmelacademy.org. There's a donate button. I think Isaac's also going to put a button up there as well. And we operate almost a huge part on the generosity of gifts of all sizes. No gift is too small. So anyone you know who would like to support this sort of movement in Catholic education, we'd be very grateful if you would share our work with them and consider a gift yourself. And then lastly, Isaac's also going to link up the applications. We're still taking applications. We've been meeting with fellows all year, welcoming people for interviews. There's a whole process of application that we go through. There's interviews that are involved, visits, all sorts of things like that. Isaac is posting a link to all of the step-by-step aspects to the applications. And so if you're interested in that, we're getting started on that, please click on the link that Isaac is sharing now in the chat window. In the meantime, Isaac, any other questions?
Yeah, I got two more for you.
Two more, let's do it.
One from Isaac. All right.
All right.
And he goes
From you?
He goes to Sacred Heart of Jesus. How close are we to him?
Sacred Heart Jesus Parish? We could probably hit him with a Nerf gun. No. 10 minutes? Yeah, we're about 10 minutes away from Sacred Heart Jesus, which is on the west side. We're on the northeast side, but we're on the east belt line. If you know Robinette's Orchard, Isaac, Robinette's Orchard, we are just to the south of Robinette's.
Yeah.
You can smell the donuts every morning.
Yeah,
That's how
so
close we are.
tempting.
And then Marianne asked, why is it called Harmel Academy?
Oh,
That's one thing we didn't even
boy, we
talk
should have
about.
started.
Yeah, we should have.
So, Harmel Academy is named after
Question.
a fellow named Leon Harmel. And Leon Harmel is a very humble, he's very humble in history, but he's a very important man. He was a French industrialist in the late 19th century, in the age of the radical changes to society, to work, that was taking place as a result of the industrial age. And Harmel, his wife died when he was young. He was a third order Franciscan, and he inherited his father's factories. And he discerned that what God was asking him to do as a business owner, as a factory owner, in the midst of the Industrial Revolution, which was very rough time socially and for workers, he discerned that what God was calling him to do was to become a father to all of his workers. And so he was an innovator in very important things. He did things that people had never heard about before, like health insurance, and things like retirement funds, and things like
Safety,
work conditions,
child
schools.
labor laws.
Yeah, child labor, schools. He built chapels. He took people on pilgrimages and made sure that all of their work was oriented around not just simply having a good business, but that this was giving life to the men and women that work for him and their children and their communities. And he was called Un Bon Père, the good father. His work was noticed by a fella in Rome named Leo XIII. And Leo XIII and Leon Harmel became friends. And Leo XIII was fond of saying, the world needs more Harmels. Harmels must multiply. And he was so inspired by the work of Leon Harmel that he decided that it was worth writing some ideas down. And in part to the inspiration of the man Leon Harmel, he wrote a document called Rerum Novarum, which would become the cornerstone beginning document of Catholic social teaching for the next 150 years. So we know Leon, we know Leo XIII, we know Catholic social teaching, we know Rerum Novarum and Laborum Exertions, but most people don't realize that it all began with a man who came to understand his work and the work of those that he was tasked with their spiritual and material well-being. He saw that as work as an orientation to God. And he dedicated all of his work in factories to that effect.
Do you know if there's a cause for his?
I don't know if there is.
Organizations,
Not that I know of.
I just thought
no,
of that.
he's a very minor figure in history, in a sense. There's
Maybe
even
that's
not a
the way
lot.
he'd want it.
Probably, yeah. His family is still around. He still has family in France, and they've actually reached out to us. But I don't speak French, so I think they were saying hi.
I hope so.
Yeah. So that is who Leon Harmel is,
Good question.
and that is our inspiration as well,
And you can see the connection between what Harmel did
and what we're trying to
and
do.
what we're trying to do. So
Yeah,
he's
that's right.
our model for that.
So, well, very good. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you like this, or if there's something you'd like to see differently, let us know in the comments. Please share the recording with your friends, potential applicants, potential supporters of all sorts. We'll probably do another one of these at some point, depending on how this goes. If something was good, we want to hear about it. If something wasn't living up to your expectation, we want to hear about that too, so we can
Or if
find
you
out the
have
best
more
way.
questions? Or...
Yeah, and if you have more questions, reach out to us in the meantime. And if you want to come to visit, come on by. So thank you, Father Dominic. Thank you, Isaac, for setting everything up. Excellent work. And God bless you all. Actually, why don't we end, Father, would you
Yes.
bless us and offer a prayer?
Yeah. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Dear great and gracious God, we give you thanks for the gift of this day. We give you thanks for allowing us to meet together to talk about Harmel Academy, Lord. We thank you for the time that you've allowed us to gather here and spend with you. Lord, I ask a special blessing upon us, upon all those who submitted questions and those who streamed in to participate and watch us. I ask a special blessing of protection, love, and mercy upon all of us and on Harmel Academy. The Lord be with you.
With your spirit.
May Almighty God bless you, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Go in peace.
Thanks be to God. Thank you, everyone.